Well, it's about 9 o'clock and 23 degrees. So it really didn't warm up very much at all when the sun came up. We're still the only ones in this campground, and it is snowing. Okay, I think we tucked Elkie in the truck. What a good husband. Janky, how's it going?
Oh!
It's very cold. It's very, very cold. Oh. The dew point is a little out of control up here. Doesn't really feel that cold, but you can sure see your breath. So yeah, the sun's just kind of starting to come out. We got here last night around 9 o'clock. It's chilly. It's snowy. As you can see, we are the only people insane enough to be camping right here. There were plenty of other hunters, but they were on the other side of the mountains where it was about 20 degrees warmer. So anyway, we were completely cozy and fine in our camper. There's a furnace in there. We've got all the tools to stay warm. But I think our dreams of panning for gold and fishing in the river, I think we might have to wait for another trip, huh, Janky?
Oh, it's going down.
So we normally always come to Jarbidge during the summer months, on the 4th of July. That's our favorite time to get up here. We live in Reno, which is about 8 hours away when you're not carrying a giant camper, so it takes even longer to get up here than that with a truck camper. And so unless you have like at least 4 days to be up here, it's just too far for us in Reno. So we usually try to save this amazing place for 4-day weekends, or 5 if we can swing it. But this summer we decided to save it because we wanted to come up to Jarbidge to see some fall colors and thought Nevada Day would be perfect, which if you're not from Nevada, it is a state holiday that celebrates our birthday, which is October 31st, 1864. So we usually swap Columbus Day as a holiday for Nevada Day. So everybody has it off, everybody goes out, and if you're lucky, you can go camping and get outside and celebrate this state. So we thought, let's come to Jarbidge when it's beautiful and the fall colors are happening. And yeah, I think we missed that by about a month up here. It is cold. There's snow all around us. When we went over the pass up there, it was definitely very icy. So yeah, I think we might have missed the fall we were imagining slightly, but it sure is pretty anyway. We're fine, we're safe, and we are enjoying a campsite that is this close to the beautiful Jarbidge River. So Jarbidge is almost like a myth. The frontier qualities of this town are strong, and not many people can make it here because it is so remote. It's said to be one of the most isolated places in the lower 48 states, and I'm not exactly sure how or who came up with that. It might have been the people who live here in Jarbidge, which is about 20 full-time residents a year. But it's this tiny little town that's situated pretty close to the Nevada-Idaho border. I think we're less than 20 miles away. And in this Jarbidge River Canyon, we'll have to show you some videos and photos of it as we go. But I mean, it's like 1,000-foot river canyons with rhyolitic and basalt canyon walls. You know, there's tons of Basque arborglyph coated aspens, amazing true darkness. There's 40 different wildflower blooms in the spring. Some of the state's biggest game animals up here, and one of the best living ghost towns in all of Nevada. So the Western Shoshone were the first people to live in this part of the world, in the Jarbidge River Canyon and kind of just this part of the West. And they believed that the Jarbidge River Canyon was haunted, very haunted. They believed that there was a creature that lived in here that they called Hobbits, which in Shoshone translates to devil. And to be honest, like we were explaining last night, we've had some bad luck here. You know, we're pretty prepared. We know how to handle a lot of things in the backcountry, and like, I don't know if it's just like if everybody has to pay the piper once in a while and your luck runs out, or what the deal is, but we've had some of the like biggest freak accidents happen to us up here in Jarbidge, and a couple of things that we just like cannot explain. So I believe it. So yeah, they called it the Tissa hobbits. They believed like a devil creature lived in these woods. So over time, with the calamitous arrival of European Americans, you know, they discovered gold in this canyon, which I think happened like right around 1908, 1909, somewhere around there. And the rush was on. It was said to be one of the last true frontier towns, last great gold rushes of the American West, right here in the Jarbidge River Canyon. Thousands of people came searching for gold right here in this river and in the canyon walls. And then so, like a lot of other places in Nevada that are towns that are essentially like made up words, Tissa hobbits turned into Jarbidge from the first European Americans who couldn't pronounce it correctly. But rest assured, no matter what sixth generation you're talking to who might try to convince you otherwise, it's never been Jarbridge, just Jarbidge. So one of the reasons that people, you know, don't really come here that often is because it is so remote. You have to drive like 70 miles on a dirt road to get here. And a lot of times I'm honestly surprised that we could even get through now, because the pass, the roads, none of this stuff is maintained except for like the locals will clean it up and grade it in the summer to be able to get in. For example, they plow the pass for the 4th of July. So it's just really high elevation. You have to travel a long way on dirt roads. You don't have cell service, you know, and to be here, like most other best places in Nevada, you really want to be here. So I think I'm gonna try to warm up my frozen hands to make something. Look how pretty that is. Dang it, sad we missed the color. Anyway, I think I'm gonna try to warm up my frozen hands enough to the point where I can actually make something, which should be pretty questionable. But we got a good fire roaring here. It's gonna be a miracle if we pull this one off. We're trying to, you know, I think the thing about this is we want to be mad about it being so cold and snowy, but we're not. Look how happy this man is that he gets to have a giant campfire. It's pretty cozy out here.
It's fun.
It's pretty cozy. Who even gets to go snow camping?
For fun.
Hardly anybody.
On purpose.
Well, even though this isn't the lush green forest that we know during the summer months, dang it, we thought we were gonna have some cool fall color, but you know, I think we're about a month late. Anyway, I got a hold of this piece of turquoise this summer, and I thought, whoa, that really reminds me of Jarbidge, so it's a good time to make a necklace. So I guess chaos is the theme of these videos. Isn't it, Jinky?
Absolutely.
Just pure chaos all the time, and it's okay. You know, that's just how we do it. Anyway, I got this, I'm pretty sure this is a piece of Royston. Isn't that cool? It looks just like Jarbidge. Yeah. Let's make a necklace. Gone fishing, be back during deer season isn't this town's official motto, but you know, it might as well be. This is one of the places in the state where outdoorsmen reign. I mean, this whole area, Elko County, is one of the coolest places in the state. It's massive, massive county. There's not a lot of interference. I mean, some of the biggest gold mines are up here, but there's also not a lot of interference of, you know, like factories, lights, sound, besides those gold mines anyway. And this is one of the places in the state where wilderness really lives. Everything up here revolves around big game hunting, which is pretty cool if you're into hunting. But even if you're into wildlife viewing, it is also amazing up here. This is where the state's, you know, big game animals live up here, because it's such a true forest compared to the rest of the Great Basin. There's white-tailed deer, Rocky Mountain elk, bighorn sheep, and some of the state's only moose population also lives up here in Jarbidge, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's see how this goes. Man, this summer I was just thinking back, laughing about how my solder was so hot it was melting, and now it's frozen. Okay, we got a solder. One solder down. It's a Jarbidge Wilderness miracle. So right now I'm just getting this bezel all smoothed out so you can't see where the solder line is, so we can get ready to solder the bezel around the back plate of the necklace. So up here in the Jarbidge Wilderness, there's a lot of things to see. There's a lot of legends. I have a blog on my website called The Legend of the Lost Sheep Herder's Ledge, which is pretty cool because it's basically about this guy, this is a common tale in Nevada, who thought he saw some gold up on a ledge, spent his entire life basically trying to get back to it, and could never quite communicate to the next generation where it was, and it's never been found. But there's a lot of mysteries in Jarbidge Wilderness, which is one of the reasons why it's such a fun place to visit. It's like your imagination can kind of just keep going right along with the river. But there's 7 peaks up here, which is one of the reasons why Jarbidge Wilderness is so cool. Really tall peaks: Jarbidge Peak, Jumbo Peak, Square Top, the Matterhorn, Prospect, and Cougar Peaks, and God's Pocket. And I think the Matterhorn is somewhere around like 10,000 feet in elevation, so they're tall. They're high elevation ranges. So now I'm trying to unfreeze my solder and squirt it on here so I can solder this bezel to the back plate, but it's frozen. So we're just gonna wait till the other one warms up in Jenky's pocket. How about that? How's Elgie? So anyway, the 7 tallest peaks are right up there in this Jarbidge Wilderness area that basically tower right over the town, which is a pretty cool way to come in the summertime. And even last night when we were coming in, all of the weather clouds, like the weather systems, had settled deep down in the valley, and it looks really spooky. Right on par for the spooky season. But yeah, it was beautiful. They were covered in snow, giant full moon out there. It was gorgeous. So I'm convinced it's beautiful in every season. I'm not sure if you can hear that side by side, but one of the great things about being here in the winter is that you really can't hear an endless stream of them just driving by for hours and hours. When we were here this last summer, I mean, it's like really cool that everybody has these $30,000 rigs and can get around. I mean, that's definitely the way to do Jarbidge, is like park on the road, back on the highway, by Wild Horse, and then just blast in here. But it's really loud. It's really, really loud, and it's super dusty, and we just got really sick of it the last time we were here. So I'm really glad that that is not happening. So we got a solder on the back plate, which is good. Now we're dropping it in the pickle. So yeah, it's been pretty great because we haven't really been able to hear all these side-by-sides because there just aren't as many. When we were here this summer, there was seriously, or last summer and every other summer we've been here, there seriously is like an unending stream of side-by-sides. And I was reading this really interesting book lately that was pretty good about, like, you know, finding freedoms in nature and like doing whatever you want to do. And it made me think a lot about Nevada, you know, how you can pretty much go anywhere and do anything that you want as long as it's legal. And the only argument that would ever really arise is when one person's personal freedoms or their private use of public lands impede another person's, or like, how do you define whose private use of public lands is more important than someone else's? Like for us, we were really annoyed by all those side-by-sides, but that's what those people wanted to come up here and do. So try to be calm about that, but it can be really frustrating. It was just a good perspective to keep in mind as you're out there, I guess. Made me think differently. That book was actually really good. It was called All the Wild That Remains. And it was written by a guy named David Gessner. And he basically compared the life's work of Edward Abbey and Wallace Stegner, which were some of the 2 most famous, like, writers of the American West. but he also just like shifted a lot of perspective for me about you know, what it's like to be outside and seeking all these like true Western landscapes, and also like refocusing. I knew this all along, but why Nevada is just so freaking special. So if you're looking for a good book, I would definitely recommend that one. Anyway, here in Nevada, there are only 4 real outlets to the ocean, and it's the 7th largest state. So it really is one enormous Great Basin, as the name suggests. Those 4 outlets, I think there's a couple that are down along the Colorado River. And then up here in Jarbidge Wilderness, which is really cool. So it's where the Oahe, Jarbidge, and Bruno rivers meet at the confluence of the Jarbidge River Canyon, which is just north of where we're at right now. So they eventually link up with the Snake River and then onto the Columbia River. So it's pretty cool that that tiny little creek I was showing you just a second ago eventually joins up with some other major rivers and then goes out to the ocean. So it's pretty cool how of all the bodies of water in Nevada, it's like one of the least suspecting ones is an eventual outlet to the ocean. Okay, so I've soldered my bezel, gotten it on this back plate here, trimmed it so it's like about, you know, Nevada shaped. I'm gonna kind of file it down a little bit. So Nevada is also one of the only places in the West where you can pretty much fish all of the trout on the Royal Trout Slam. There's like 7 of them. It's like golden, brown, lake, rainbow, cutthroat, bull trout, brown trout, lake trout. I don't know. There's like 7 of them. And you can pretty much get all of them in Nevada, which is unusual. Not a lot of other Western states, you know, you can get all of them. And you can pretty much get all of them like in Elko County, which is really cool. But one of the most sought after is the Dolly Varden, or the bull trout, which lives right here in the Jarbidge River. So it's a protected species, and they are surely elusive. We've tried to find them a bunch of times. And while you can pretty much, you know, not get the rainbows off of your line, that's like every single cast there's a fish on. One of the main reasons that we like to fish the Jarbidge River so much is because of those bull trout. We're trying to get one of those guys. In 1964, Jarbidge became Nevada's first wilderness area, which is crazy that it took that long, right? I mean, there's a lot of iconic landscapes in Nevada, and just the fact that it took a whole 100 years after the state was in existence, and after, you know, the great Western awakening of when Americans basically going outside in these natural spaces like Yellowstone and Yosemite just became the American thing to do. It still took a really long time for even one of Nevada's first wilderness areas to be designated, and then it still took like another 25 years for Nevada's first national park, Great Basin National Park, to be designated. But at the time, in 1964, when Jarbidge Wilderness Area was designated, it preserved something like 60,000-ish acres. And then over time, more acreage has been added, and I think it's like just over 100,000 now. But it is Nevada's oldest and largest designated wilderness area, and it is right up as far in the upper right-hand corner of Nevada's border as you can pretty much get. I think we're like 12 miles from the Idaho border. We're close. So now I just have this really cool twist wire that I got. Kind of looks like barbed wire. I'm skeptical that it's actually 20 degrees. I mean, it's cold, but it's like, doesn't feel like it's 20 degrees cold. But I could just be losing it, you know what I'm saying? It's happened before. So in this Jarbidge River Canyon, like we were saying earlier, it is a mysterious freaking place that a lot of people, including most Nevadans, don't even see. I mean, there's a lot of people in Elko County who come up here, but I think there's probably more people from Idaho who come in, because there's another way to get in this canyon from Idaho that's a lot easier to get here. So anyway, in this canyon, basically from the north you'll hit Jarbidge, and then the further south you go, the deeper these canyon walls become. And there's the Jarbidge River, and then there's also the East Fork of the Jarbidge River, and both of them are nestled in these like crazy tall 1,000-foot rhyolitic and basalt canyon walls, which are just like insane. It's just really beautiful up here. In the canyon, you'll find the Jarbidge River, which flows 29 miles in length. 17 of those fall in Nevada borders, but it just continues flowing. It meets up with, like we were saying, the confluence of the Reno River, which happens when you're in the Idaho side, and then it just keeps flowing into Idaho. And once you're in Idaho, it gets like bigger and taller and mightier, and the Reno River is a wild place. There's class 5 whitewater rapids there. It's one of Nevada's wild and scenic rivers, which is basically like the highest form of protection for a river, because they're not going to intervene with any of it and just like basically let it flow as it always has. So yeah, the Reno River just keeps getting bigger and taller in those canyons, getting scarier, stronger. And as you go up into Idaho, there's even this really cool Reno jasper that's also along the walls, which is what I think about, like even when I was down here on the Jarbidge River, like there's got to be so much cool rock hounding in these walls here besides gold. But speaking of flowing north, so the town here in Jarbidge is really cool. I mean, the wilderness area is so fun, but like it's a type of like frontier town that other Western towns try to replicate, and it just naturally exists here in Jarbidge, which is what makes it so fun. So like I said, I think the majority of the town was really rediscovered or settled by Euro-Americans who had looked for gold, discovered gold here in the Jarbidge River Canyon at the turn of the 20th century. And then the population basically like exploded overnight, like any other boom town. And there was a stagecoach robbery that happened here that was super duper famous because it was one of the very first times in American history, I think actually it was the first time, that fingerprinting technology was a success, because the guy that robbed the stagecoach left a bloody handprint on the outside of it, and they were able to successfully use fingerprinting technology for the first time in American history, and that happened right here in Jarbidge, which is pretty cool. They threw him right in the jail, and I think there's stories that he snuck out of the roof. I don't know. There's always some crazy story like that, it seems like. But the Jarbidge jail is downtown that you can still see. And then along with a couple of other really cool old buildings like the Red Dog Saloon, which is one of my favorite bars in the state. That one is OLD. It goes back to Jarbidge's Gold Rush origin story. And while there's a couple other places, like the Outdoorian is another, outdoorsman and backcountryman's paradise, that was rebuilt. Like every other town in Nevada, there was a pretty devastating fire that swept through here and leveled a lot of the town. But the Red Dog Saloon is original, which is cool. It's only open in the winter months because the Outdoorian is more of like a summertime hangout, and with less people in the area, it's just too expensive to staff and heat during the winter. So they switch over to the Red Dog, which is cozier anyway. So hopefully we'll be able to get in there and check it out. I think they usually open it in November, the beginning of November each year. But anyway, it's a very authentic place. There's about 20 full-time residents. I think a lot of other people maybe come in the summer to live around here, but yeah, the tried and trues, there's very few of them that live around here. Some of them are some of my favorite people. Their names are Jane and Jace. They run the Outdoor Inn and Red Dog Saloon. And excitingly enough, they were my very first Song Dog Silver retailer. So you can buy my hat pins and jewelry and money clips and all the other stuff I make and sell right from Jane in her store, Jarbidge Jane's, which is right next to the Outdoor Inn in downtown Jarbidge. The reward of coming all this way is being here, but if you wanted to commemorate your time here with a physical piece of Nevada that came from Nevada and is made by Nevadans, well, you know where to buy it. But today there's a lot of really cute stuff going around there in town. There's the bars, of course, which is I think the main reason why most people hang out down there today. And it's kind of like, just knowing that that's at the end of the road after you've been driving on 70 miles of dirt roads. It takes a few hours of just like slow going travel. I mean, it's really fun to just go in there But they serve some really good sourdough pancakes. They have crazy delicious milkshakes. There's a really good Mary Mary milkshake that's in there. And it's just fun to just like unite with other people who are interested in the same stuff. And there's also a place called Nevada Glassworks, which is really cool, which is a really neat glass blower who is from Elko County, who relocated to Jarbidge a couple of years ago and makes like incredibly beautiful stuff and sells it from a little shop right there in downtown Jarbidge. And then there's another really great place, especially if you're looking to go fishing or if you just forgot something where you're from. It's the trading post, which is on the northern end of town, and this woman took over, and it is pretty much stocked with anything I can think of in there. There's everything from even like dairy products to frozen dinners to cans of soup to chapstick, toothpaste. You can buy worms to go fishing. You can even buy a fishing rod in there. We've bought like the coolest knives we pretty much have ever discovered in there. It's just a great little shop that has pretty much everything you could possibly need while you're in one of the most isolated places in the lower 48 states. How crazy is it that we're gonna be able to pull this off?
We're doing it.
I couldn't do it without you, Janky. Oh yeah. So one of the most famous threads of modern Jarbidge history, this happened not very long ago. I think it was like in the 80s or 90s, right?
70s, 80s, or 90s.
One of those decades.
We'll figure that out for sure.
Stay tuned for the real fact. I thought it was like 1989, but anyway, I'll look that up and figure out exactly when that was. But the shovel brigade happened because basically this town is so freaking remote up here, and the U.S. Forest Service was like, nope, we're done trying to maintain those roads. It's a racket. Not very many people live up there, and we're not helping anymore. And the people who had lived here and basically built their lives around here were like, what the hell? Are you joking me? Like, we live here. We need to be able to come in and out. But they were like done with maintaining the Mountain City Highway way, or the way that comes from Elko. So I think the Idaho way was still open, but the other way to get in here, the way that like a lot of Nevadans get in, they were just kind of like, nope, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. It's over. And so then this gigantic boulder fell in the middle of the road from just like the seasonal precipitation and mountain conditions up here. And the U.S. Forest Service is basically refused to help. And so then this team called the Jarbidge Shovel Brigade formed, and they dug it out, got the rock out of the road. They call it Freedom Rock, of course. We are in red state country up here, and that's okay. But anyway, it was gigantic, it was massive. They dug it out. And that's also kind of like, you know, why a lot of people like to come up here, because the government can't tell them what to do. But anyway, there's a big sign that is devoted to it in downtown Jarbidge in a park. So that's also part of the history. But there's a ton of campgrounds here. You can go way deeper into the forest at the end of the road up there. We're at the campground right now. That's U.S. Forest Service. That's maybe like a half dozen sites. That is the closest to the town site of Jarbidge. Then there's more that are at the confluence, way north of town. What's going on here? Yeah, there's more further north at the confluence, and pretty much like there's even more dispersed camping all over this place. You just have to basically pull in and camp there, as long as you're okay with not having a bathroom. But I think some of my favorite parts of Jarbidge Wilderness are evidence of the Basques. And they really, it's all around you around here in the forest. And if you're unfamiliar with the Basque culture, they were a group of immigrants who came to the American West, you know, chasing their own American dream. And originally came here to be miners. Some of them did. And then they just decided that that wasn't gonna work out. So they turned to what they knew and loved and were good at, which was sheep herding. So they came from the French Spanish Pyrenees, and arrived in the American West. A lot of them settled in California, Idaho, and Nevada. At least that's where the 3 largest Basque populations exist currently. And when they decided that they didn't want to do mining, they turned to what they knew how to do from the Basque country, which was sheep herding. And they basically lived and worked in Nevada's most mountainous terrain, which is all over the state, by the way. Nevada is the most mountainous state in the country, and at least in terms of the number of mountain ranges that are here. And they would live and work these really lonely lifestyles in the mountains, where they would protect their flock of sheep and then return back to the nearest community to restock on supplies and basically find their own community. So this happened a lot, mostly in northern Nevada, and you can find evidence of their culture in modern day Basque boarding houses that still await in a lot of these towns. Elko, Winnemucca, Gardnerville, there's still some in Reno, but probably one of the most famous ones in Nevada is in Elko at the Star. But these boarding houses were all over the place. And they would basically live their lives, these very lonely lives in the mountains, tending to their flock. And, you know, when you were out there months at a time taking care of your sheep, you would get bored and lonely. And so they would play games. It was kind of rare, it's from what I can understand, that they would be with one another. So they would just basically be out there in solitude, and they would make carvings at their sheep camps on aspen trees. And it could be indicating anything from, you know, a good water source that was right up the mountain to their next fellow Basque sheep herder, to a lot of times the thing that they missed and longed for the most, which was the touch of a woman. So there's a lot of really cool Basque made tree carvings, which in Nevada and the American West they're called arborglyphs. So yeah, it's really fun as you're driving through the road up here. There's an area called Copper Basin, and I think that's probably one of the largest, most prolific groves of Basque arborglyphs in the state of Nevada. We found a bunch that are in Mount Jefferson that are really cool as well. That was another big Basque sheep herding region. That's worth seeing with your own eyes, especially if you're trying to hike Nevada's 4th tallest peak there. But up here in Jarbidge is where some of the coolest Basque arborglyphs in the state await. But the interesting thing about arborglyphs too is that they are, like the pecan punch, a thing of the American West. So you won't find those in the old country. You also won't find a pecan punch in real Basque country. This is a thing that they basically did and made up in the American West, which is always fascinated me. I think some of the oldest recorded ones that are out there in Nevada date back to 1895, which is crazy. That's old. If you come up in this part of the state, seriously just pull over the car basically anywhere on the road up here, and you'll be able to wander around a grove of some really cool old artwork made by sheep herders who know this region of Nevada better than anybody else in modern times. So I think some of our happiest times here have just been hanging out around our campsite, away from the cell phone towers, doing whatever it is that we want to do all day, making really good touch-up and campfire dinners. There's some really cool old mining activity around here, cool mining, just even like, they look like caves, but they're tunnels that were used. We've camped like right near one up the road here. And then just like spending as much time as we can walking up and down the Jarbidge River. Some freaky things have happened to us in this part of Nevada, and I think a lot of people, actually I know people, think that we're completely insane for wanting to come back up here over and over again. But there's just like, once you've been up here, you get it. And if you haven't been up here, well, then you don't. Well, we made it to the end. It's a freaking miracle. Now it's just starting to warm up. In a state that's obsessed with freedom and a country that's obsessed with freedom, there really aren't very many places where you can actually feel free. And Jarbidge Wilderness is absolutely one of them. So I couldn't think of a way to celebrate those personal liberties, being out here in one of the coolest places I know of, and to celebrate my 1-year anniversary of doing Song Dog Silver and Nevada Day. Then to be out here in the Jarbidge Wilderness with this cool Jarbidge Wilderness pendant. So thanks for following along with us, guys. Happy Nevada Day from Miss Nevadan.